Well, good afternoon. It's our Wednesday live stream again. I had a nice slide to put up at the start of this, and I've run out of time getting myself ready. So we'll just go live. Invites have gone out to Richard and to Roy, so hopefully somebody will join us shortly. But if you come on the chat and you want to join in, let us know. I can let you have the link, and then we'll allow you to come in and chat with us. If you want to just put a comment in the chat, text chat rather than video chat, then you can do that, and we'll try to respond to that as well. So, got any questions about JMRI or queries about your layout or your thoughts about using it or whatever? None of us claim to be experts. We're all amateurs in this, and we're all just sharing our own experience. We make no guarantees at all about the software because it's an open source, community-led piece of software. So there is a forum which people are welcome to go and join. Roy's here, so
yeah, just arrived. Hi, all right.
Right, 1 second, because my headphones are not actually connected at the second. Maybe that will work. Okay, hopefully that's it. Can I hear you in my headphones?
Yeah.
I can.
Are you able to hear me all right?
I say again, sorry?
Are you hearing me okay?
Hearing you. Yes, I am. Yes. No.
Good,
yeah.
good.
You can hear me as well, yeah? Excellent.
Yeah, no problem. I got an email through from Richard, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that he's hoping to join us.
He is here.
As I speak. Hello, Richard.
Hi.
Welcome, Richard. I'll just change the screen layout so that's a bit easier. Okay, so yeah, thank you guys for coming on again. We haven't got Lee here at the moment. I did find his email, and I was about to email him to say, come on board. I've no idea if he's even around, though, to do that, to moderate. I'll leave that for the minute. I mean, I'm not necessarily expecting trouble, but I think that if anyone does put any comments up which we don't want, they disappear from the stream afterwards. So as long as I get rid of them quickly, then it's not a problem. But if I'm sharing full screen, obviously I can't be watching the comments easily as well, unless I've had some clever setup with multiple screens and things, which at the moment I don't. So, anyways, no.
Four-letter words.
Yeah. Let me just check mic levels, because Richard, you're quite quiet at the moment. So let's have a look. Oh yeah, I'll turn.
Okay, how's my mic level now? When
That's good. That's good.
That's good for me as well.
Okay, cool.
Incidentally, Richard, when you sent over that email, I've been having a look at the Little Wicket. Very interesting. Some interesting reading. Richard sent me an email, John, with a couple of links into Little Wicket, mainly to do with the SSL and SML. And, just a general, I'll have to read it another 10 times before it sinks in a little bit, but there you go.
It was the Little Wicket thing was mainly SSL.
Yeah.
I modified the track plan so I could do some other things with it. And then I copied it and used that as a basis of trying to get SNL working.
Right.
Ran into problems since I couldn't, it wouldn't respond to the real life signals. That's when David Sands said, well, why don't you use, instead of trying to use the output matrix, which I couldn't get to work, just use defined signal heads and put the signal heads into the SNL.
Well, yeah, I'll have to look at that some point later on.
Yeah. What it means essentially is if I have a signal at the throat of a switch I have to use 2 heads. And if I have signals on the diverging or the converging exit to the switch, I use 1 head.
Right.
So what it's meaning is I'm using, essentially, there are 4, I'll be using 4 heads per switch, which means in terms of black boxes and things, I'll have to use 1 Digicase DR4018 per switch.
Right. As I say, it's probably just a little bit beyond me at the moment. Until I've got something physically to play with. I mean, I know I can do it on the simulator, but I'm not at that point yet. So I'm still trying to get my head around the rest of the system.
Yeah,
I did put out a question onto the user group yesterday, was it, or the day before?
yeah, I saw
which was related really to hiding icons, sensor icons on the panel, and also I want to hide some of the labels, literally, because my panel is getting a little bit, I'm going to say, overpopulated with various pieces of information.
Yours is, Roy.
Yeah, well,
You see what I've been sharing.
I have seen yours, yeah. Unfortunately, it's nowhere near that level. But I did put out a couple of questions, and one of the answers that came through, which was quite interesting, was they were talking about levels. Now, I'm assuming they meant like the level of the page on the actual panel. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, there are effectively levels, which means some things on a higher level, if they will show over the top of other things. So,
is there?
It's how you.
I think that's all.
Talking about levels, is there a way to hide any a given level or something on the panel?
That's what I'm trying to establish. One of the replies that I got actually from they were going from Dave Sands, and he was saying that you could use a script little bit which actually changes the level. But there was a little bit in it which I didn't quite understand, which was, finding what that script is in the first place. So I've not done anything with it at the moment, but that was the sort of concept.
Okay, there's no simple way like checking for example, in any rail where I put things on different levels and I just check a box to show.
Yeah, that's right. There's no simple way of doing it with JMRI. Okay. What I did do was actually physically move all the icons out of the viewport or out of the viewing area on the panel, and then made the panel smaller, if you like. So the icons were still there, the sensors were still there, but physically in a different position. And that was my first movement that I was trying to do, which was to effectively relocate.
That's not too cool.
No, I know it isn't. And my next sort of thing behind that then was whether I could actually create a duplicate of the panel and then have the sensors deleted from it, shall we say. Yeah. But I still needed the sensors to be active. So that was a non-starter really. So I'm still
depends. Yeah, it all depends on what you're trying to achieve, Roy, doesn't it? I mean,
all I'm trying to do literally is, shall I say, declutter the panel. So at the moment, as you know, on the panel itself, there's all the sensors, loads of them all over. A lot of them are identified for purposes of programming. But then, once that's been finished, I want to sort of hide all those sensors, particularly what appear to be the occupancy sensors. But the line or the trap section of the block would still be active when the loco goes over that sensor, or when it gets activated, shall I say, by the sensor. But without the actual text, because once it's been programmed up and tested, I don't need the name of the sensor there anymore.
Right. I've got a simple solution for you. I'm going to share my screen. I will show you exactly how to do it in a very easy way, okay?
That's brilliant. That's exactly what I want, please.
Right. Sorry, bear with me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Hopefully you can see
Yeah,
my cluttered panel.
I can.
Okay, I'm in edit mode. So if I right click on a sensor, can you see the pop-up box I get there?
Yes, no problem.
Yeah. And one of the options down here, right down here, can you see where the blue line is now?
Yeah.
Hide when not editing.
Right.
So if I click that, I can see the icon when I'm editing it, so it's there. And if I now go out of edit mode, it's gone.
Yeah.
It hasn't really gone.
No, it's just hidden. No, I've done that already. I appreciate that. But what I want to do it from is a script to do exactly that. So that what happens is on the panel itself, you click. It's effectively another icon. It's another sensor that's acting as a button. And within that button, that runs a script. And what that script does is toggle the status like you've just shown. So what I'm trying to do is actually use a script to do exactly what you've just shown us.
Yeah,
right.
I just did it for instead of doing it for a sensor, I just did it for a script. And that works. The problem is you have to do it for every bloody script you want. There's no way to have a checkbox like in any rail where you just stick them on a level and forget it.
Oh, right, okay. Well, in that case, I'd like a copy of that script that you've done. Any chance?
Well, who are you talking to?
You.
You just
me.
I
don't have a script.
I thought you just said you done it.
I just tested it by right clicking on a label and then right clicking on a label, hide when editing, and that's it.
Yeah.
You're not editing. That's all I did.
Oh, right. No, that's what John just showed us a moment ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done all that.
Yeah,
I've done all that already, and I can see how to do that. What I want to do is, instead of having to put it into edit mode, then click on the thing to hide it when not in edit mode, and then it hides, which is good. What I want to be able to do is all that, but from a script.
Well, if you'll forgive me for saying it's a bloody mess, if somebody could come up with a script to automatically do hide anything like that, that would be neat.
Well, you can do it, actually. I mean, there's two. Well, we already use the scripts at the moment, which are part of the supply, which is to set the points and to set all the sensors to a known state, effectively. What that does is it accesses the tables. And you could actually do a for-next loop that accesses a table to actually hide or recover them, or re-show them again. So it would be a bit more coding, but you could do it in a script. So you're not actually having to do it critically to each individual item. You do it through the table.
That would be nice.
The big thing is getting that script in the first place that actually does it.
What's the end game? Because you said you wanted to tidy it up, but you're talking more about doing something more than just tidying up the screen when it's in run mode, sort of thing. Yeah,
while it's functioning or while it's running, and it's running and I'm playing with it, shall I say, I might want to turn on those icons just to see which one it is that's going to be operated next. It's really just an on-off condition for setting things on and off. for labels and so forth, but during the operational state rather than just taking it out of operation into edit, hiding them. And then, and like you say, the biggest problem there is that I've got something like, what, 30 odd states or 30 odd sensors. To do that, what we've just spoken about, you'd have to go through every single sensor.
I think we discussed this last time a bit, didn't we? And said that you could, your icons could be, whether they're on or off. I mean, you want to know the state of the icon as well as whether it, or have it visible or invisible. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. The operation of the step, it's a sensor that I've set as. It's not the symbol of a sensor. It's the where it's got text overlay on it. And consequently, when that sensor becomes active, then that block turned red. So it's showing it being occupied. Now, once it's running and so forth, I want to be able to turn off the icon, or really it's the sensor. Turn the sensor stroke icon off. Hide it. That's what I'm trying to do. Now, I had two answers on the forum, as you've probably seen. And I need to sort of experiment with those. And one of them was changing a level. So what I got the impression there was you put all the sensor stroke icons onto a level, and then you hide the level, or you enable or disable the level.
That's the best way of doing it. Yes, I agree.
That's if that's what it is. Now, I've been searching through all the samples and examples and the script informations, and I can't find anything that relates to a level in that format.
I'll share the screen again.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's just the scripting library that you need, the function that you need to do that needs to be discovered, or whether I'm just thinking in terms of what you're meaning by that. I'm just all right. So hopefully you can see the screen again. So if I right click on a sensor, you can see here that there is a set level option.
Right. Yes, I've seen that, but I've not actually done anything with that.
No. So I'm wondering if I do set level 0, if I come out from edit mode.
How do you set
it? Doesn't. I was thinking maybe there was a set level 0 option for hiding it, because that was ringing a little bell with me, but that doesn't seem to work.
How do you change the level on something?
Can you see the pop-up box I'm getting saying set level here?
Not at the moment.
No. Okay, I'll. It's probably just not sharing.
I think it's no. I can see the screen, and I saw them pop up a moment ago.
Did you?
But then it went stationary.
Well, I'll have to share the specific little window. There we are.
Right.
Oh, well, that's huge, isn't it? That's.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Anyway, but that's the pop-up that comes up on set level.
Okay.
So you can just dial up. You can change the level to whatever you want.
Right.
The default on that was coming up to 10. But,
right. So if you go to your screen, yeah.
Yeah, it's not changed anything.
Right. Okay.
Going to 0 didn't change anything. That just relates to which level. So I'm not sure how that would help.
I think what might have to happen is you have to possibly delete the sensor and the icon, select a level, and then reinstate it again. So it actually puts it on that level rather than the current level. So in other words, when you're changing the level, I get the impression that you're not actually changing the level of the icon. You're changing the level that is the working level. So if you change it to 7, you're now going to work on level 7. So if you add an icon now, I bet that'll go on to 7. Does that make sense?
What? I'm not sure what you mean.
Right.
I'll share that screen again. If I'm editing an icon on here,
Yeah.
I'm going to edit sensor icon. I'm sorry, edit the level, set level.
Right. But that let's assume now that is still on level 10.
Yeah.
When you now select another level for that, it's not actually selecting the level for that particular icon. I think it's selecting another level, 7, that now becomes the active level. So if you now add an icon, it'll go on to level 7. But that icon is still on level 10. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't understand why that would be the case at all.
No, okay.
If I move, can you see the screen at the moment?
Yeah, yes, I can.
Yeah, if I move this icon over here, it goes behind this other icon.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But if I right click on that icon and say set level, and I take that icon down to 4 because I've just set the other one to 9, and I now drag this one. Oh, I've turned it on even. Don't worry about it. If I take this one over here, now it's over the top of it.
Right. So in other words, it is positioning that icon on the level, but which is good. What I want to now know how you turn that level off, the whole level.
Well, there isn't. I don't think there is a concept in the way that you're talking. I think you're thinking kind of any rail levels, but I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I think it just relates to the icon itself. I don't think it relates to anything else.
No, I think you're right. See, the other one was to try and reposition the icon temporarily by using, because one of the options there is setting X and Y, but you can do that in edit mode.
Okay.
Sorry,
you can't. You can do that in edit mode, but you can't do it under scripted mode, i.e. there doesn't seem to be an attribute for it to actually change it.
Somewhere there probably is, but just
why don't you, Roy? Why don't you just ask? Or I'll do it if you like. Why don't you just ask the question? Is one, what is the purpose of having levels in JMRI? 2, is there some sort of way you can hide all the icons on a given level with a script?
Yeah, that was part of the question that I did originally.
Yeah, it got buried inside the other part.
Yeah, I think so. It probably wants a more directive question, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll set it up and write a very directive question if you want.
Oh yeah, that's great. Fine, thanks.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, that's good. While we're at this point of sharing the screen which I was on, I just thought I'd let you know, because I've titled this session on for the purposes of YouTube and anyone else who happens to pop along, that I've had some success with 2 things. One is back and forth running, and the other is 4 trains simulated at once.
Brilliant.
The back and forth running I have tried previously. It does require getting various things in place like this, because if you can have signals set up one way, but if you don't have them set up the other way, it won't work. So you have to have signals both directions.
Right.
But I've even got it so that I have a little simulated steam train running along it using VS Decoder. I don't know. Have we talked about VS Decoder before?
No. What's a VS Decoder?
Totally
right. Yeah, virtual sound decoder in JMRI. It's a feature of JMRI that allows you to simulate the running of trains with sound effects.
Right. Okay.
Well, I don't care about the sound effects. I'd just be happy running the train.
What I'll do is I'll just share my panel and I'll show you hopefully something happening, and maybe you'll be able to hear it as well. if I can make all that work, then a miracle's occurred. But so bear with me 1 second. I'm going to have a go at doing this. Right, I'm going to turn the volume of the sound effect up because I did turn it down earlier so that you didn't get deafened by it.
Yeah, can hear it.
Hopefully you can hear a little steam engine simmering away.
Can.
Now, at the moment, where this, can you see me pointing at this block which is occupied?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's waiting at this signal. This signal is actually this one here. Semaphore is on this block boundary. It's just positioned like that because I couldn't fit it another way. But the allocated route is going down this way, which is a white track. But at the moment, this turnout is set wrong, so he can't go anywhere. So he's just waiting at the moment. But if I click on this turnout to change it, then and I change the signal. Now the auto change throttle windows has come up. If you can see that on the left, don't know if you can see that.
No, can't see the throttle.
No.
Can you hear the steam loco going?
Yeah. Yes.
And off that train goes around the layout. I'll zoom out. It's running down into Newquay, and it's now arrived at Newquay, so it's stopped at Newquay. This is a shuttle, so it will wait for 5 minutes, and then it will try to go back the other direction.
Right.
And in the meantime, the other trains have got a chance to run around. But so if I change this point back to straight rather than for the curved track there, then it might allow something else to run as well. But I think everything else is on hold for a moment, so I'm not quite sure why. But anyway, well, you can see, all right, the route going back now has allocated. I'm on a fast clock, so it's 8 times normal speed. So the 2CO1 is, the allocated route is right back through the loop. So I'll put that turnout back to where it was before. Now, what I need to do is set the direction because I've got this up and down direction switch. At the moment, it's set for down, but as soon as I set it to up, you should see this signal here with the feather go green because he'll have the route.
Right.
There we go.
Yeah.
And now the auto train has got a green signal and off he goes. What I normally do is, as soon as he's gone past that junction, the turnouts on this triangle are all set with one sensor, and the sensor is the signal. Is the point lever. So
Right.
I've got fairly manual control over that. I've changed my options to not rely on automatic routing, basically, so that I can control that a bit. But for the most part, all the points are set one way and they don't change for the automation, so it's not a problem.
We've just had
I've got setting up.
a friend of Rule 1 who just joined us.
Right, anyway, that's I'll stop sharing that and come back from
We've got
Rule 1
just
model roads.
joined
Hi,
us.
yes, welcome.
And he's an iTrain
It's
user.
so scary.
And iTrain, so welcome Rule 1.
Yeah, it can be scary. I must admit. I mean, if it was easy, then somebody would have done it a lot better by now. But I think part of the issue is that, and I'll be frank with you, it's a community-led thing, but it's also non-commercial. It's run by volunteers, all the volunteers only have limited time really to spend on it. Nobody's paid to do anything, and it's down to each individual and their interest to keep it going. You know, so
it's the level that you need to take it to.
Yeah, yeah. It's if you've got the time and the effort to spend, then that's all right. If you want something simple and off the shelf, then you need to go somewhere else.
like he is, he's on iTrains, which is quite a good package actually. I looked at iTrains as a possible solution to what I was doing, but it's the JMRI gives you a lot more flexibility because you're controlling it more than what another is, if you see what I mean. iTrains give you. Yeah.
I've looked at iTrains carefully about 6 months, a year ago. It's a nicely well-written package. They have some very nice little things in it, like instant routes and things like that. The advantage is that it's written essentially by one person and not a committee.
Yeah.
It's also not, it's not the most expensive package, but it does cost at least €200, 250 euros.
I think that's the thing that puts a lot of people off is that kind of idea of the startup cost. But I mean, if it's not the main cost in doing these sorts of things. The main cost is for the hardware modules and the track and the stock and everything else you might need.
Right.
That's right.
So, depending on how large you're trying to do things. It makes sense if you're in a club, or if you've got quite large resources to do things. But if you're a home alone person trying to just set up a little layout, then you need to think carefully.
Well, iTrain is just the cost of a locomotive, basically.
Yeah.
Not more. No.
Oh, yeah, I mean, iTrain is a little bit limited in its functionality. You know, it's doing what they decide, or whoever it is that's written it. It's their interpretation of how it actually controlled. But it is a very good package.
Yeah.
I did, or I was going to trial it, but unfortunately, it does allow you to run it for about, I think it's a month or something like that on trial. But they don't support Digitrax. Otherwise, I would have tried it.
Surely does.
Really?
No.
It's LocoNet, so I would have thought that it supports LocoNet.
Yeah, but I mean, in the hardware that it said it supports for, I'm talking about for the trial, not for the actual function. You've got to buy the LocoNet.
For it to connect, probably. Yeah. I mean, that's standard. Yeah, it's just not allowing you to connect to a physical system.
I
don't know. I wouldn't like to make any.
That seems to be a copyright problem. That if since LocoNet is copyrighted by Digitrax,
right?
The person running iTrain can't put it in his free demo for a month, unless there's some sort of problem of that sort, I think.
Oh, that's probably the reason then.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it prevented me from actually going to look at it to do anything with it. Yeah. And it was then that we looked at. I mean, the first one, as we know, was looking at the railroad automation from Perry. But then, after talking with yourself, John, it obviously became more useful, shall I say, to look down the JMRI track.
I'll just make a disclaimer here, just in case anyone's watching from a legal point of view. All of us are not experts. I said this at the beginning. None of us are experts, and anything we say can be taken with a huge pinch of salt because it may be completely wrong. Okay.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's our own interpretation of what I thought.
I came across a document last week. I don't know if it's going to be eventually. It's a complete description of the French railroad signals.
Right.
and how they work, what they're supposed to do. The document, unfortunately, it's in French, but I was seeing what I could do to duplicate it, and there's some questions since it doesn't seem to have double-headed signals if you're talking about switches and points. So I'm not sure how that part of it works.
I've only come across the idea of a double-headed signal for on US US system. I mean, maybe it is elsewhere, but I've only come across it there. I'm not sure whether Canada does it, but yeah, it's to me it seems a strange idea that you can have green and red showing at the same time ahead of you.
If you have the two heads, the top head is on the continuing track, and the bottom head is on the divergent. So there it makes sense.
You just hope one of those hasn't gone out.
Well, what you usually have is a fail-safe thing that at least one light should be lit.
Yes.
And if it's not lit, that means something's wrong with the signal.
Yeah.
But how in England do you show if you're coming into a switch, going straight to track is clear, but going to on the branch, it's not clear? How is that shown?
Well, you don't worry about what is ahead down a branch you're not taking. The signal will show you an aspect based on the route occupancy ahead only. So, whether if ahead is taking the curve to the left and there's something down there, then you'll get a red signal, or if it's further on down, you get a yellow or double yellow. But it won't. It's got to be the route you're actually taking to tell you what
Okay, that means the conductor of the train must be aware that which way the switch is thrown. I mean, if it's open or closed. So
the conductor doesn't care about that in the UK because the signalers take care of that completely.
Okay.
The routing is done by signaling and the signal boxes, and that's done through timetables or through special instructions and so on, as I understand it, rather than. So the guard on the train doesn't. I mean, only if you get into unsignaled, what might be called dark territory in the States, track, and that does happen sometimes on branches, where the conductor or the guard in this case, because it's more like a freight train rather than a passenger train, would have to actually get out and throw some points to get the train to go the right direction. But normally you're working on a freight line where the guard or the pilot would be, they're also called, would be very familiar. It would be their job to manage that line and to make sure that everything was run correctly, and they would know where all the points were, and they'd travel with the driver, and that sometimes that is a pilot rather than a guard.
But
I mean, only a few years back you had signals all the way through with little signal cabins and one-man gate operations, and even a house next to the gate to control. I mean, that those days have gone now. Even
some of the signals are gone now in France because the high-speed trains don't have any signals on the tracks.
No, it's all cab control stuff, isn't it? So
because the driver can't stop the train in time when he's traveling 300 kilometers an hour.
It's a lot more automation now.
Yeah,
I was watching what's it called? The train spotting series on television series. I don't know if you've seen any of that, but there was one where they were traveling on the German maglev on the elevated concrete sections, doing some ridiculous speed. But they say, well, there is a guy at the front, but he's actually not driving the train at all. It's all automated. He's just monitoring all the systems. I mean, he's got a nice window to look out, but he's staring at computer screens. It's got nothing to do with him driving the train,
Yeah, I was
So-
on I was on one of the high-speed trains in China, and it's the same sort of thing.
Mm. Well, I mean, with model railway automation, I mean, what I've just shown is a train running backwards and forwards. You don't need a driver in there, do you?
Now, what makes you think that the U.S. uses double-headed signals?
Well,
I know nothing about the U.S.
that's the default.
Okay.
It's called I mean, they call it AB. I think it's called ABS, absolute block signaling, which is different from what we would call absolute block signals. But it's a different. It's an early method of controlling track signals, and that became the standard kind of way of doing it over there, and it's what JMRI default in JMRI is. So. Yeah, I mean, if you want to use a different signaling system when you're setting your masts up, choose a different one, and you'll get a completely different kind of look and feel to the whole thing.
Well, I'll try that. I took what would they call the basic because I thought that would be the simplest.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of simple.
Well, I have a good idea what's going on in France, or I will, because one of my cousins was responsible for setting up signaling systems for the French National Railroad system.
Yeah, I've got a feeling in France they have more color lights per head than we do. I think sometimes there's a double aspect thing, and I mean we have double yellow, but I think they have various double, so it's more heads and more colors, I think, sometimes, but I might be wrong.
Would you like me to send you the document I have? It's in French, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it's in JMRI. If you just go in and select, I mean, it's actually already in there. I don't know if you've not been in to look at it. There are some pages which describe all these different systems in JMRI,
including the French system. I didn't notice.
Yeah, I think pretty much a lot of stuff is in there because it is used all over the world. So I'm just trying to remember how you actually. I'll share the screen. I'll try to go into it. So
okay.
If I'm thinking while I'm talking, it's.
Yeah, I was looking at the French translations of JMRI. Woo!
Right. It's not really. Trying to remember. I think it's more on the actual. Sorry, I'm going to jump out of that and jump into something else.
Let's see if I can find some. I have a.
So if you go into signal masts, hopefully that'll come up in a moment. Takes a while to open sometimes.
Yeah, I'm trying to open it on mine at the same time.
Where was it under, John?
Under tools, signal masts.
Signal map, simple.
I'm just trying to.
No, I see simple. I see SSL. I don't see the mass thing under tools. You have to go into tables.
Tables, yeah, tools, tables.
You have to go to signal mass there, under there. Got it. So if I do an add.
But if you go into the.
I see signal systems.
I've got signal masts up, but there's nothing on it. Nothing in it, of course.
Yeah, do
I've
add.
not added any.
Yeah, do an add.
Right, if you go into help from the signal mast table, can you see where I am at the moment? Can you see that screen with the signal?
No, I see
it's still showing the general panel pro basic screen, main screen.
Why doesn't it switch? Okay, I'll try. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know why. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Right. If you go into a help file from Signal Master, you end up in this menu system here at Signal Master. But if you go, there's probably another way of getting to it. Just if you go back to signaling, on here you've got at the top you've got a menu and you've got prototype railroad signaling. So I think if I click on that one. So I'm just trying to see it now. Right. Okay. There we are. Well, that's it. Yeah. For some reason, that previous link was wrong. Can you see on the screen now? I've got how does it work?
Right.
And then available signaling systems.
Yeah.
So you can click into any of these. So I'm not sure if there's a French system.
I haven't seen one.
We've got German, Chinese,
Belgium,
London, New York. Yeah, maybe there isn't. I just, Belgian. If there's Belgian, I would imagine there was French, but
could be Dutch also.
Yeah, Czech. I mean, surely there's French here. Maybe I'm just not looking at it in the right manner. But if you click on one of these, it will go in and it will give you. Well, if you go to you can go to the aspect page.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's maybe. Why is that opening Internet Explorer? I don't want that.
I'll go explore.
Oh well, there are pages and pages in there. I'm somehow not seeing quite what I want to see at the moment.
Looking at that tree that you just had, that where you found that signaling, you're in tools, and then you went to signaling.
Well, if you go to help,
if
you go to help for the page in the main. In any of the signal pages, if you go to help, it will come up with that.
Right,
it comes up with that list from anywhere. But if related to signaling, if you're in a signal page, signal master or signal head page, it will come up with the relevant kind of bit of help.
Okay. Yeah, it needs a bit of digesting, doesn't it all?
There's a lot of information there.
There is.
You can go into it to whatever extent you want, really.
Okay.
Yeah, the if you go to signal aspects from the menu, that takes you into the list of available signaling systems.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into the BR 2003 one, for example, you can definitely see. I'll share that screen now because it's more relevant to maybe British folk who I relate to because I'm in Britain. if that's wrong, forgive
Well,
me.
I just got a model train package from England that was sent to me, and I didn't have to pay customs duty on it.
Oh, well, I don't know if you should say that out loud.
Well,
I mean, imagine if it's a new one, or if it's new manufacture, or whether it's second hand or something.
you know,
I'm sure it must have been second hand because if it was new, I'm sure you would have had to.
no, it was a kit. It's brass, and you have to use solder and make a tramway.
Right. So in which case, it's not a finished product. Okay.
Right, but I got it yesterday in the mail, and I was a bit worried that the French would slap a customs duty on it, but they did. It went right through.
Yeah. For some reason, my links are all opening up in Internet Explorer, which is not my default browser. So I'm not very happy with that at the moment. Maybe in JMRI there's a setting for using a different browser, but maybe the latest test version, which I'm on, has changed that somewhere. I need to find out about that because I don't want it opening in Internet Explorer if I'm wanting it to open in a different browser.
Yeah, I found the thing. I'll have to take a close look at it where it says signal aspects.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
We've got Hover Motion's just come on talking about train controller work for him.
Oh, welcome, Hover Motion. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Roy, for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's even more. That's even more expensive than iTrain.
Yeah.
If you want to join us, Hover Motion, in the actual video, you'd be very welcome. Just let us know, and then I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah.
Most of them are written in German. Both train controller and iTrain are German in origin.
I mean, I don't know where Hover Motion is, whether it's in UK or abroad, but I've discovered, or several people have complained about the train controller people, or the guy who writes it. He's not very helpful for English. He doesn't actually like selling to the English. That's as far as I'm aware. But it's in UK anyway. So
yeah. No worries. You're welcome during your tea break.
Mine's coffee with 2 sugars, please.
Yeah.
I think he must have gone because our numbers of viewers have just dropped down to 0. So I think he's just
right. Okay. Yeah, we just having a quick brew. I mean, I don't know whether we should, whether we could do something like a progressive, I don't know, lesson, if you like, John. Whether that'd be worth sort of considering.
Well, I'm just thinking it might be worth having a little session on VS Decoder because it is quite an interesting part of JMRI for doing sound. If anyone was interested, if you'd rather do something else, then we could do something else. But I'm quite happy to do, whatever you guys want, really. I mean, it's an exploration thing, but
I think it's a case. It's whether we could sort of come up with if we did something in. I'm looking to try and get a bit more experience, of course, of how to automate things. You've done obviously a lot. Richard's done a fair bit. I'm still lagging behind, and it's whether I can catch up in time, or whether it gives me the time to catch up, or whether we did, whether we had a common, like Richard did last week with his layout or his demo, something similar to that we could each sort of try and do, if you see what I mean. Probably very, very simple for yourselves, or whether it should be just something I'll try and carry on, What I'm saying, it's a bit more, what's the word? Structured, I suppose is the word.
Yeah, I mean, let me put my thoughts to you on that. I would, yeah, totally agree that more structure would be good. I'm aware that as more people kind of come along and show an interest, then it becomes more difficult to find a common interest, because people's interests in these things are quite diverse, and to try to satisfy everybody at the same time is quite difficult. But what we certainly, I think, could do is agree to probably have some period of time during these sessions to do something specific in a structured way, but leave the rest open to discussion and chat, so people have got a chance to engage. But definitely do something structured. But obviously, it would be quite short term. Now, I am happy to do more structured things, but I'm being unemployed at the moment. I need to earn some money. I'm at the point of starting a Patreon page, and if I'm quite happy to do more time. But to be honest, if I start spending more time on it, I want to get some money off it. So. And I'd like that to go partly to the railway and partly to cover my costs. So I will be available for doing more things, but it would be on the basis of people coming on board through Patreon, and do it that way. I think that's a reasonable approach.
Well, I don't know what Patreon is. What's that?
Well, it allows people to subscribe to a monthly payment of some sort. For the privilege of access to more stuff, which I'd love to just spend the time and not feel that was a problem. But my missus, if she's listening, if I can demonstrate there's some genuine reason that I'm doing it, but if it's just for the hobby sort of thing, it's difficult. But I think that might be an option for me to go down that route. I've just got to get myself sorted out a bit.
Yeah, it's worth looking at,
But we can certainly do something within the supposed hour or so we spend on a Wednesday. It's clearly got to be something that people are interested in who are turning up here. So I think it needs to be something fairly kind of engaging. And so I think it needs to be something more general maybe than too specific. I'm clutching at straws here, but
I think the problem has been like we've just had a couple of comments, of course, previously and now, about people finding it quite an awkward thing to get into JMRI, and it really, like you say, it's a case of more or less starting from the beginning. But okay, I've just installed JMRI. How do you go about sort of getting into it? There's lots and lots of stuff on the net, of course, on YouTube. You can search for various things, and as I say, I think that little wicket is very, very good. So you can obviously learn a lot from there, but it doesn't give you the opportunity to ask questions or to get the answers to specific questions that you might want to ask.
I'm hoping that some of the key people from within the JMRI community, the developers, would be able to come on board in our discussion and help out. I'm learning some of the stuff behind the scenes, and I'm learning more about Java and threading issues and those kinds of stuff to figure things out. But I'm not at our point now of being able to go in and start changing the code yet.
No.
But I would, so some, welcome people who have software expertise and knowledge at that level to come on board, because they could help things, but also mainly because they can feed back into the software and to improve it. But also, I think I'd like to have more on the operations side, just to engage people, particularly in the UK community. Because I don't think it's something that's done very much, and what is in operations in JMRI can be used completely independently of everything else in JMRI. You can set it up. You don't even have to have a layout. It's not, it's not something that is to do with automation. It's to do with movement of wagons, you know, and where they are, and
right.
you can do that and have some, you know, have quite a bit of fun actually with just understanding how operations work. Because I mean that's what railways are for, isn't it? I often think people run their model railways and they, you know, they're okay and happy with it once they've got trains running around a bit, and then they watch them go flying around a few times, and then they get bored, and then it goes in the cupboard somewhere. And I think part of the reason for that is because it's not actually sort of engaging with some of the things that railways really do, which is actually more challenging, but also more interesting. In terms of, you know, trains were there to take people from one place to another, or for transferring goods from one place to another. And so trains on a railway, if you're going to reflect anything of the nature of railways, should have some element of that in it. If it doesn't, then it's not got the challenge of that. That it is a very challenging area, but it's also quite fun to get into to learn about. So I'd like to see more of that. There's a few more comments from Hover Motion on the side here.
It's just gone, actually. Just one of the interesting things there, he did say that the train controller is very cloak and dagger on the way it's done. Now,
I think that's the nature. Unfortunately, that's the nature of private individuals, businesses doing things because they want to protect their intellectual property.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
That's the difference with the
commercial. And same with iTrains and so forth. And there's quite a few out there, but primarily the top sort of ones is the train control. And like you say, if it's a big organisation, I mean, probably our club, for example, we've got 70 odd members, quite a lot of money in the bank. Certainly could invest in something like that if the interest was there in the first instance for the groups, if you like, or for the club to move down that automation route. Unfortunately, 90% of the members are, in the fully retired section and are obviously used to the old analog methods and so forth. Find it very, very difficult to convince them. They don't want to move on to, or they like to play trains rather than have it all doing it for it automatically. And I think that's the difficulty, unless you start getting the younger element coming in.
I think things should be built up. One of the problems is things should be built up slowly. If you're looking at operations, for example, it would seem to me the simplest is to have get a shuttle going between two points, then add track on where you could say put a passenger train running on a schedule through a loop. After that, you can build it up by attaching, say, a spur or a couple of spurs, and have loading platforms and things. You can then put in a yard where you're building up trains, and if it's done on this type of thing, where you're building another.
Yeah, progressively rather than trying to do everything at once. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And that's the main problem with a lot of these programs. It's all or nothing. There are very few of them are built up in a pedagogical way.
Hover Motion just mentioned about Railmaster. Well, it's Railmaster that runs with E-Link, and I've actually got E-Link, and I've played with that a little bit. The only problem with E-Link at the moment, anyway, and I'm saying at the moment, it has been for several years now, there is no method to get information into the E-Link, as far as I'm aware, unless it's changed recently. You've only got output control, although it does show in the heading or in the options that you can actually have an input module. They're not available, and there's no signs of them being available.
I thought I thought it did have some capability. I thought maybe it could connect to S88 or something. I read something the other day, but maybe.
Well, unless it's changed. As I say, I've got an E-Link here.
Yeah.
E-Link is very, very good, particularly if you just run it on timed base output. You know, I have had it running, you know, on one of the layouts at the club.
I mean, I think part of the challenge for this is the starting point you're coming from. I mean, if you want to run trains to a timetable of any sort, I mean, does the software provide that? Or if you want to shunt wagons, does the software provide that? Or if it's just recorded playback, is that going to be what you want? You know,
it's primarily a macro type function where it records all your movements.
Then you can go in movement and play it back. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but you can go in into the actual script and edit it. So if you wanted, if you'd stopped a loco in a station or something for 30 seconds, you wanted it to 20 seconds, you can go into the script and change it rather than having to go through the whole thing again. Maybe Hover Motion has any information about the possibility of having any input coming into the thing from sensors or anything like that.
Good to hear, Hover Motion, if you're still online to, you know, if you've got any comments on all of that. I mean, JMRI has the capability of recording in warrants for playback in that kind of automated way. I mean, it kind of relies to a certain amount on a train starting from a certain position, going to somewhere else along a certain route, and the expectation being that your timings would be broken by something happening en route.
Well, that's the problem that I found. That's what we did find a problem with E-Link, is because it's timed based, you know, it doesn't stop correctly in the same places if you have any slight delay, if you have any slippage, or, you know, the loco gets stalled for some reason, you know.
Yeah, so as soon as you rely on time, you know, we've said this before, as soon as you rely on time for automation, things can go wrong.
You really do need the feedback.
Yeah, if it's not doing something more clever with identifying where it is and how to carry on. I must admit that, I mean, in JMRI isn't perfect. In Dispatcher, which I've been using for my simulated automations, one of the issues I've come across recently, really, and it's only since I've really started running serious automation tests, is that if you start an automated train and it's allocated blocks ahead, and then you interrupt that allocation by occupying a block which wasn't expected to be occupied, then you kind of break the allocation and it won't allow you to rebuild that in the same way. You have to end up terminating that train, and then you have to rebuild the train, basically, which is not. I mean, I would like it to, you know, to wherever the train's up to, for the train to be able to carry on from where it is, and allocate from there forwards. But at the moment, Dispatcher doesn't let you do that. So I'd be very interested in what these other products allow you to do or not do in that kind of situation.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
So it's just frustrating, you know.
Yeah, you can't actually run any of these other products unless you've got somebody who's actually got them and able to run them to test it. Because it's certainly not worth the investment from, you know, our own point.
Comparing them is very hard. Yeah, it is very hard. And I have installed things like Train Controller and played with them to some extent, and I've watched videos, you know, but until you actually start plugging the hardware in or learning it thoroughly so you can actually run some proper simulations, you know. I mean, one of the things I do like in JMRI, which I haven't seen happen in these other products, is this fact that you can write your own scripting to do things, and the scripts which other people have already written, like the auto train simulator script, the fact that allows me to see the train going around the track, and it's obeying the signals, it's obeying the auto train parameters and all that sort of thing, and it simulates that block occupancy going around. Does allow me to check out an awful lot of stuff which I haven't seen. I mean, I'd love somebody to come on and tell us whether that's
Well,
possible. I've seen
you
people
can do
clicking
that-
on the blocks to do it, but not doing it any other way.
You can do that in iTrain.
Can you?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's I have my English goes to pieces. I bought iTrain, so I can run iTrain. What happens is you have something called an instant route, which you define. Now, an instant route will involve switches. Well, first of all, the route is independent of the train. You can define the route as a path through your layout with switches and things like that. If you do it, the switches are locked. So when you start up a train in instant route, it will follow the route that you've told it to do. It also, excuse me, it also has block properties such that you can say a train comes into this block, it will wait X amount of time and then reverse direction. Or it will wait X amount of time and not reverse direction. So you can build this type of thing up very nicely using iTrain. You can attach the route to specific trains. If there's a conflict, the switch will not be thrown, and the route will not go into the block where the switch is. Essentially. But it works. It works in simulation fairly well.
Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah. Well, we've been on here for an hour and 11, so
I think we
probably maybe call it a week and reconvene next week. And
okay.
Is there a topic? Is there a topic we could concentrate on? What do you guys think?
I'm going to be looking at transits and dispatcher this coming week because I'm going to complicate my little test thing in simulation by putting a loop around it to see how that changes.
Yeah, cool.
One of the things I don't know is I know how to set up signals using SSL. I have to look into a little more detail on using SML, how it protects switches, and how it protects blocks, and how it protects sensors. Which I'm going to be looking at. So I don't have to use the automatic way of setting things up. I can do it by hand and make lots of mistakes that way.
Your thoughts, Roy?
Well, I mean,
I'll have a bunch of virtual crashes.
I mean, the thing is, probably the first stage that I want to look at, obviously, is trying to do something functional, but like with SSL initially, probably, just to get something operable. Now, I'm sort of feeling my way in the dark at the moment, really, because I'm still not sure which way it's going. I'm stuck with the end-to-end, which I'm trying to sort out and get hardware sorted out. So at the moment, I've had nothing really functional running. So I'm not sure as to what I've done actually does function, to me. It functions simulation-wise, and I've actually had it connected to the Digitrax on a rolling road with 3 locos, and it's been working fine on the rolling road. But I've not got that yet connected onto the board. Yeah.
Well, I suggest you connect it, Roy.
Well, that's what I'm waiting. I'm waiting. That's what I'm in the process of doing. Literally, at the moment, I'm building up my test gear, my test kits.
Do you think by next Wednesday you might have something to show us?
I doubt it. It's the time. I mean, effectively, I'm still. I mean, this is the main controller. It's probably difficult to see it, but that's the main. He says, that's the main control unit. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it looks dreadfully complicated.
It isn't. There's just a lot of it.
That's your tower units, isn't it?
Those are the two tower controllers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then these, the units that are around it, these things, yeah, those are radio frequency interfaces like that. That's the one that sits at the tower controller. Yeah?
Okay.
The other ones, which are these, actually sit, these are only on a test board at the moment, but that board there, yeah, where is it there? That's an input-output board, which actually goes onto the layout. And that connects to all the sensors.
Okay.
And then that does all the connections through radio. Yeah, it's using a thing called a mesh, or it will be using a mesh network, which I'm in the process of programming. Yeah, and that sends the information. Now coming out from that, what I'm doing at the moment, because of course I want to be able to use this thing for actually testing. I'm in the process at the moment of making little modules, yeah, on boards. I've got sort of several of them to making, which actually plug on to these boards. So what happens is there's two channels there, for example, that plugs onto the channels like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that acts as though it's, for example, an output to a servo or, well, not a servo, but, anything like a red and green LED, for example, or whatever. But these are only for test purposes at the moment. Once I've got the hardware sorted out on the layout, yeah, because I've been waiting for some units to come. They have arrived, actually, this morning. I have put them somewhere, honest. Oh, there. Those have just arrived this morning. And these are a new set of the little infrared sensors.
No.
Now, I don't know if you noticed when you've been watching, if you watch the Little Wicket, he's got infrared sensors at the end of his tracks. And
right.
They are these.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are the infrared sensors. And effectively, all those have got to go under the layout to actually detect. The test rig that I did, when I tested it initially, was that. I don't know if you can see that on the quite a big one.
Yeah.
And that's got all the sensors in it, all connected back to Arduinos. Yeah.
Okay.
Which are for testing, and I've had that running up and down under DCC. Yeah. So I know the concept is right, or operable, shall I say. So the next stage is to get all this lot wired up and connected. So that's not going to be in the next couple of weeks. Well, it might be in the next couple of weeks.
Let's pretend we're in an agile business. What we want is something which is deliverable by next week. What can you deliver us to demonstrate by next week, Roy? It could only be just a small subset, but could you show us something working?
Well, I would hope that. What I'm doing at the moment, as I say, is developing these, which are the I/O controllers. If I can get these operable, the next one that I've got to do is some input modules, which just plug onto here, and they will simulate the functions on the layout, i.e. the sensors. That hopefully will then be communicating back to the main board, which is then interfaced into JMRI. So I might be able to actually simulate the function running.
Yeah, if you want some help, if you're having an issue or problem in the week, give me a shout. Right now, if we could get something to show for people for next week, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah,
even if it's very simple, even if it's a minimal.
If
it was something, it would be great. I think it just shows that we're moving forward with things.
Well, I made the mistake of ordering something from a place called Cool Shop, and it was for a special. Well, I said a special. It's for a replacement electric drill. It was a cordless one, but very light in weight. And then discovered it's coming from bloody Denmark. And yet it was a .co.uk. There's nothing on the thing that actually tells you where it's actually coming from. I have had notification this morning from FedEx that it's just arrived in this country. And that's been 10 days now since I ordered it. So it's not very good. So anyway, hopefully if that arrives in the next couple of days, which I hope it will do, I can probably get on with the hardware on that. But then,
if we divide next week's program partly into something that you're going to show us, Roy, I mean, maybe Richard as well in the week. If you want my help, give me a shout. And if you're having a problem with anything, and then maybe next week you can show us something about what you've done.
Roy, I'm available during the week.
Okay.
If you want any help setting up the demo the way I set it up on my simple tracks, I can help you.
Yeah. I mean, I will be wanting one. At the moment, I've already got a complete process or a complete program, shall I say, panel with all the scripts in it and all the functionality already done. And I can simulate them, and I've actually got 3 locos running simultaneously up and down and stopping in stations and that sort of thing. That is all done under simulation and actually works. I've got no issue with that. Okay. It's now transferring that over onto the actual physical hardware to actually do that running. But I mean, one thing I can do, I could demonstrate the simulated version now, But I mean, like you say, it's too late now for today.
I would be interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we could do that. No problem. I think John's already seen some of it. I don't think you've not seen the latest version.
Right.
Okay.
But you see, the other thing which I have tested now, software-wise, in a JMRI, is the part in the blocks that would normally be block occupancy based on a current sensor is actually now pseudo-generated from the sensors via the Arduino code. Okay. So the Arduino. So effectively, as far as the JMRI is concerned, it thinks it's got a current sensor showing the occupancy in that block.
Yeah.
And that all works. That all works code-wise. It's just a case of now, it's like anything else. It's code that works. Does it work on the hardware? That's the next question.
I have had a little bit of success up in the attic this last week as well. With I did actually plug in for the first time in a long time to the controller, but after I put a question on the forum about running. Well, I was hoping to run the simulator alongside the throttle, so I could just have a train run round.
I saw that question.
And I tried. What was suggested was that if you plug in anyway, don't worry about it being not in the simulator. Connect to your actual layout. It will work anyway, because anything which is not a real sensor out there will, it will just treat it as being a virtual sensor, which is actually fast. I hadn't known that you could do that, but I only had a very short bit of track connected, but it did. I was able to use one of my scheduled auto trains from operations. Click on, start the auto train, and watch the engine actually take off and go along a short stretch. So, it wasn't a brilliant demo, but it was actually something which showed me that at least it's working through to the hardware. Which is nice. It's always good to know that that's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that thing you just showed us a moment ago about the sound cell that had sound in it, it was running a train. Now, whether that would be useful, I think it would be. So at the moment, if I want to run the simulator to test that piece of software, I have to physically, drive a loco, shall I say, as though the loco was going. So,
if you set up dispatcher, as Richard's talking about doing with transits, for your layout, then you can set up an auto train, and you can use the same thing I'm using to simulate it going through the blocks. It will run the train through the blocks, no problem.
That's the sort of thing. But would that activate the sensors that are in that track?
Yeah.
So okay. So that's the sort of thing, the questions that I'm asking.
Yeah.
Because not so much on this layout, but on that menu 5 5x3 layout, which is a lot more complex, which is going to be a slow build up. That is going to need something like that for the simulation. Yeah. I mean, it's like anything else. You spend a lot of time writing and playing about with software before you actually put it on the physical thing to see what it does. But yeah, I mean,
that's the point. Yeah, we can look at that. Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing.
Okay. Well, I
think we've got a few topics for next week. That's good.
Okay. What I intend to do during the week is on my little test layout, I have the occupation centers are real. They work.
Yeah.
What I don't have are stop sensors at each end of the of the track. Those I'm going to set up they exist, but virtually.
Virtual ones, that's useful. It's a good way of doing it. Yeah.
So what I'm going to set them, they're going to be infrared sensors at some point. So while I want to set them up virtually and see if I can get a real shuttle going back and forth.
On that shuttle I demonstrated earlier, the last block at Newquay, the stop sensor is the block occupancy sensor at the moment. I don't have one, but when it gets back to the loop at the other end, there is a block stop sensor there. But I was running that with an acceleration rate which was very slow, and it was actually slowing to a stop even on a very slow before my time for the stop sensor was firing. So, anyway,
one of the problems is you have on a real thing you have inertia.
Yeah. Hopefully not too much because you need it to respond to the system. Yeah.
What Richard was talking about then was having a shuttle backwards and forwards. That's exactly what my system does. It actually shuttles backwards and forwards, but with an intermediate station that is selectable. And what it does is it has as it comes to the end of the track, it's got a pre-sensor, which is the effectively start to slow down sensor. And then there's an end sensor, but it actually times based on the delayed or the decay time of the deceleration, if you like. So if the loco is coming up at whatever speed it's running at, hits the pre-sensor, it then ramps down, but it'll ramp down fast so that it effectively hits the slow speed quite a significant distance, shall we say, from the end sensor. But what it's also doing is timing that. And what it does the next time is when it triggers the pre-sensor, it now doesn't start to ramp down for a period of time. And then once the time elapsed has gone, it then starts to ramp down and it hits when it hits the minimum speed, it's also hitting the stop sensor.
Well, you can be as clever as you like with this. I mean, that's the benefit of having scripting, but sometimes the inbuilt things do the job as well as you want, and that's as useful as you need to go with it. But I mean, there's a whole load of stuff to learn about, like loco profiling and all that sort of stuff before it will really work reliably. Because obviously, so. But that's something for another time. Anyway, we've been on here an hour and a half nearly, so I need to have a break. And
okay, just one comment. I'll be heading out to Normandy when they get rid of the lockdown in the month of May. I'm around the 13th of May. I am not sure how this will work in Normandy, because I only have ADSL out there. I don't have fiber optics, which I have in Paris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
You have to send letters, Richard.
Yeah.
All right then.
I'll wave to you because I'm exactly 32 kilometers from the island of Jersey.
All right then. So
we'll look forward to that.
Okay.
Okay.
All the best, everybody.
Cheers now. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.